Hi, I'm Wendy and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to talk to some of the talented people who are performing at the ninth Faversham Fringe, Faversham's very own Fringe Festival, which is running from the 3rd until the 26th of October. On Friday, the 17th of October at 8:30 in the Guildhall, there will be a performance reading of Vagina Monologues. And today I'm talking to Sarah and Thereesa about their show. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Thereesa. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
Hi, Wendy. Thanks for having us.
Yes,
It's a
thank you.
pleasure. So, what inspired you to perform Vagina Monologues?
Well, Sarah and I have been founders of Folkestone Live, and we discussed several readings, as it were, to do in between the two, since last year, 2025. And I suggested Vagina Monologues because they were readings, we didn't have to learn them. I said they were moving. I said they haven't been done much in Kent in the last, I don't know. I haven't seen them being performed recently. So that was what I chose. And everyone sort of thought, oh, yeah, I've seen them and I've heard about them. Oh, yes, let's have a read through. And everyone agreed to produce this.
Okay, so in a few words, and avoiding spoilers and the obvious, what is Vagina Monologues all about?
Shall I answer that again, Sarah?
Okay,
Or
Teresa, yes.
I think they are as they are. They're transcribed. They're probably verbatim from monologues about and from real women that Eve Ensler recorded 30 years ago. And some of the issues are as relevant today as they were then, sadly. There are many monologues that are moving, probably triggering, probably witty, if you know. And I think there was a lot of giggles from men in the audience last week in Folkestone Live. So they are witty. They are. They're just real. They're believable. They're real life stories.
Okay. Okay. So,
and they're read by us as actors. Sorry, I meant to say, and they're chunked, as it were, into monologues.
Okay. Is there a particular theme in the text that your audience, male and female, will relate to, or is it actually predominantly female that will relate to it?
Well, I think, Wendy, that people think that it's females who are going to relate, and indeed they do, because the show is about vaginas. Let's face it, it's a female body part. But interestingly enough, a lot of men have said, well, I'm very interested in vaginas, so I think I'd like to see it. I've heard that from friends. And for a Faversham audience, as in any audience, there is a lot of statistical input which the audience can take away. And some of it is just about how many women out there probably don't even know what their clitoris was or is, or what a climax is, or how you get it, just for example. But also how many men don't realize the abuse that is carried out during war, for example. War just isn't about guns. War is about the abuse and the rape of women and children. And so some of those statistics come out in the narration, and I play the narrator as well as one of the women in the Vagina Monologues. There's 5 of us, by the way. And it's important for people to understand these statistics of, for example, genital female mutilation. I mean, there are millions and millions of women who go through this every year all over the world, and if actually you described it, compared to a man's penis, for example, it would be, hugely intrusive to a man. He wouldn't be able to cope anymore. So we mustn't take that so lightly. But on the lighter side, I do a monologue about an older woman, because I am old, believe it or not. And so she is the older woman who sort of tells the story of what it was like when she was young in the 50s, and what it was like to have a sexual feeling, in the 1950s, when, especially in America, it's an American woman, nobody ever talked about sex, for goodness sake. or what happened in sex. And it's a really touching story, a real story, as Thereesa said, a real story, as a lot of them are. And Thereesa does a wonderful one about the Kosovan and Bosnian women. You know, what they went through during that war was just horrendous. And also there's some funny ones. There's one called My Vagina is Angry by one of our five called Debbie Christie. Very funny, very funny. So the wit and as well as the poignancy, I think, is for any audience. And when we were leafleting in Faversham on Saturday, people really related to it, didn't they, Thereesa?
Yeah.
You know, they said, yeah, we want to see this. We've heard about it, but it's never been here. We'd like to see it. So it's a universal piece, I'd say. But anybody with an open mind, I think, would get a lot from it, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And do you think that we should be carrying a warning that it's not suitable for under 16-year-olds, or what do you think?
Yes,
I would say it would be confronting. Yeah, I wouldn't bring an under 16-year-old, definitely not. And probably even 17, 18-year-old girls might be sitting there very embarrassed. But I'd say very embarrassed. They are actually real. The stories are real, and these taboo subjects aren't talked about. Sexual abuse isn't talked about. Child abuse isn't talked about. Rape isn't talked about, and yet millions and millions of women have suffered and endured from abuse. So in some ways, although it would be triggering for someone who's been through something, it might actually also bring a healing kind of impact on a woman or a girl to know that this is prevalent around the world, you know?
Yeah. We have put 16 plus, so 6 over 16 on the flyer, and in the program.
Right, that's okay. It's just that I will end by saying, making sure that people know that one should be cautious the age that is allowed in. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
And so your audience is going to basically move away from this thinking, aren't they?
I would say from the feedback that I've had, we did it twice on Mother's Day in the collective in Folkestone, and then we did it at Folkestone Live last week. And the feedback I've had is, I never knew that. I never knew those statistics, or I was so moved. This older woman came up to me and she was in tears after the Folkestone Live show. She's a member of Equity. She was in tears. She said, that was so moving. And I'd had no idea that these things existed, and that it could be put on stage like that, you know. So people will come away moved, but also maybe with a little smile, but also more knowledgeable.
Yeah.
A couple of men have said, I got educated.
I got educated. That sounds good.
That's what a couple of men said, yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Well, we're looking forward to coming to Faversham, Wendy. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, so let's turn away from your specific performance at the Fringe and tell me your memorable moment on stage where something has happened and it's either been super exhilarating because you didn't expect it and it worked, or nerve-wracking because everything went wrong.
Do you want to do one, Thereesa?
I'm having flashbacks of the things that have gone wrong. I'm just thinking.
Well,
I did have a Victoria Wood. I understood it, studied in the 90s, and I had to tour with a Victoria Wood #1 show, and I got to go on in Blackpool in the very area where the Lancashire accent was. We went all around the country with it, and I was having kittens thinking, oh my God, you know, of all the places to be the understudy, I had to be in Lancashire. But my singing teacher came up with her fiance, and they heard the groan that the understudy was on, and she was really proud because we'd worked hard on this Victoria Wood song. It was like da 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 da, you know, it was that kind of song, but it was quite difficult to deliver. And she heard them groan behind her that it was the understudy was on. And then at the end, they actually, apparently she was in tears because they stood up and gave me an encore. I didn't know this at the time, but I was very moved to hear that. So that was incredible. But I had to pee on stage in that play as well. So in the corner, there was a hat, and she was like, very typical Victoria Wood. Right, when I put my hand in here, I'll do that. It's like that kind of accent. So yeah, it was fun, that part.
And Sarah?
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you about, yes, a difficult moment I had, but this is in TV, because I've done a lot of TV, Wendy. And so this was one of the first TVs I ever did, in which I played, they described it as a 6-foot dyke. Okay. I know, I'm talking about the 80s, so it was a bit, like politically totally incorrect. And I had to wear a balaclava and a boiler suit, and they had to sellotape down my breasts, with kind of with bandages. And then I had to go into this room with this quite well-known actress whose name I will not reveal because she probably wouldn't like it. And I had to go in with a huge knife and stalk across the whole studio. It was an ITV studio for London Weekend Television, as was. And I had to make her read, this actress who was in bed, make her read my blackmail note. And as I ticked up the blackmail note for her to read, I managed to slice the top of her finger off with the knife. Yeah. And it's because stage management hadn't blunted the knife. And, it wasn't actually my fault, but unfortunately it looked like it was my fault because this woman had blood spurting out and there's a bit of her finger hanging off. And it was just terrible. And it was one of the first TVs I ever did. And I was always known after that as, oh, she's the actress who cuts people's fingers off. So that was terrible. But,
Oh, I'm trying to think of anything that tops that.
Unfortunately, I don't have time to top it. I'd love to continue talking, but
I think we've probably had our time now, haven't we, Wendy?
Unfortunately, we have. So everybody listening, if you want to think harder about what is happening to women around the world, maybe laugh at some true stories, probably cry at how cruel the world can be, then book your tickets for Friday the 17th of October at 8:30 in the Guildhall, online at favershamfringe.co.uk/what's-on, and ensure you and your friends, male and female, but preferably over the age of 16, don't miss the insightful, sometimes naughty, and very moving Vagina Monologues. Thank you, Thereesa and Sarah, for talking to Radio Faversham and the people of Faversham today.
Thank you very much, Wendy.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy.